All right, welcome everybody. I guess we'll get started here. My name is Ben Wetzel. I'm the events coordinator for PASA. I'll be moderating this event today, and I'm just very glad that you all are able to join us this afternoon. This event is brought to you by PASA. We're a nonprofit organization that administers farmer training, research, policy, peer education, and local food programs. We're also a network of tens of thousands of farmers, food system professionals, change makers. We're all working together to advance regenerative and equitable agriculture at home and in our own communities. You're welcome to learn more about all of our work at pasafarming.org. A few housekeeping things before we get going. You're all welcome to stay on or off camera, whichever you choose, but please stay muted as we go throughout the presentation. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat, and we do have some time set aside throughout the presentation to answer as many of those as we can. And lastly, I will be sharing an evaluation at the end of the event. This is where we really want to hear your feedback that can help us improve future events like this one. Our speaker today is Shelly Oswald. She's a certified high-performance coach, seasoned farmer, and entrepreneur with over 30 years of experience owning a successful business. In addition to producing and selling grass-fed beef directly to consumers via Shopify, Shelly is a management accountant with advanced certification in QuickBooks Online and dedicates part of her time to their bookkeeping cleanup department. Driven by a passion for empowering individuals to unlock their full potential, she utilizes her expertise to inspire and guide entrepreneurs toward achieving holistic success and fulfillment in their personal and professional lives. I also want to mention that Shelly has been a key consultant for PASA in our financial benchmark study, so we really want to acknowledge her dedication and hard work for that project as well. Thank you. All right, that is all I have. I'm going to pass it off to Shelly now. Let me change my screen.
Welcome, everybody. One thing that Ben and I talked about before the presentation was that we're going to send out, or Ben's going to send out, a copy of the slide. So anything that's written on a slide, don't worry about taking notes on that. If there's notes that you want to take on the other stuff, that's fine, but you don't have to write down the things that are on the slide. Those things, will come out to you in a PDF file. So we're here to talk about simplifying your books and some of the things that I've learned in 30 years of being a successful business owner. So what we're going to cover is how a 5-minute-a-day habit can simplify and improve your bookkeeping, and then 7 ways you can simplify your books, your business, and your life. And then at the end, there's going to be bonus resources to help you categorize your numbers into different categories for your bookkeeping. Basically, what we're going to be doing is focusing on the concepts of bookkeeping. This isn't a debit and credit lecture. This isn't something that's high level. It's really about how being intentional is really critical to your business. And one thing before we get started is that people don't generally pop out of the womb with business skills. This is something that it takes work and study, just like learning how to plant your crops and grow your animals and to do just about anything else in life. So it's skills and it's good habits. So keeping that in mind, that's going to be the framework that we're going to be working in. Okay, next, Ben. First off, I want to recognize that the survival of farm businesses is critically important to conserving farmland, food skills, and local food security, as well as national security. This means that the work that we are all doing is very, very, very important. And that's why it makes it so important for us to make sure that the investment that's being made by the people who are purchasing our products, by us, and the sacrifices that we make to, bring food and conserve these food skills and conserve the farmland and improve the quality of the soil, to carry that forward by making very good intentional decisions. Okay, so intentional decisions are the key to holistically growing a profitable business while having the freedom to do what matters most. What this means is that if you don't intentionally make decisions about your business, then those decisions are going to be made for you by somebody else, and it's going to make your journey as a business owner more difficult, and your failure rate's going to be so much higher. So what we have to do is to make sure that we're paying attention to the things that we can control, because there's so many things that are out of control whenever you're in a farming business. You have things that happen with animals, you have mother nature, you have pests, you have disease, you have all these things that happen that don't happen in most other businesses. What we do is it's very complicated. So it's going to be really important for us to make sure that we do make intentional decisions about as many things as we can. And then most people get into a business because they want to have more freedom, whether that's more freedom for time, more freedom to live the way that they want to live, freedom of money, freedom to do whatever matters most to them. And if we don't make intentional decisions and work our business just like we work the crops, and intentionally make decisions to plant and to harvest, if we don't make intentional decisions about our business and our numbers, then it's really going to make it hard for us to succeed and have that freedom in the end. Okay, next, Ben. Okay, so why 5 minutes a day? 5 minutes, it takes something that feels like an overwhelming, complicated subject, your books, and breaking it down to 5 minutes a day makes it a very, very simple thing to do. Okay, so when you look at what how 5 minutes compounds, these numbers are just based on a 5-day week, not 7 days like most of us work, but on a 5-day week. And if you just work on your books for 5 minutes a day, then you can see how the time compounds and that you end up with quite a bit of time spent on your books. Okay, next, Ben. It not only that, but the time savings is incredible. What I've found is that you don't spend a time spending looking for receipts. You're not running around asking others what the money was spent on. And what the number was for is top of mind. So working with accounting clients, one of the biggest problems that accountants and bookkeepers run into is people not knowing what a receipt or an expense was for. And that really, it just like stops up the work. So whether you're doing your books yourself or somebody else is doing them for you, this categorization and doing it frequently is really important. And I really believe that whoever is managing the business should be the one that is sorting and categorizing the expenses and the income. That person should be the one that is seeing those numbers and working this. Now, one thing more about the 5 minutes a day is that, and what I learned years back, our business, before we started the farm, my husband had a plumbing and excavating business. And then we purchased from my family a John Deere tractor dealership. So I was managing multiple 6-figure parts inventories, equipment inventories. And then on top of all that, besides the parts sales and service, we also had school buses. So I had to deal with, routing, logistics, mad mothers, all of those kind of things. And what I discovered whenever I started putting processes together for my farm was that one of the things I discovered was that I had this habit of going in when I went into the business. I would sit down, and the first thing I would do would be to record the numbers from the day before, because this was in the early 1990s. So I was working on like the first versions of QuickBooks Desktop, and there wasn't the automation and the things that we have today. So I was really doing a lot of manual entry and manually moving from point of sale program over to, the bookkeeping program. But the first thing I would do is I would go in there, I would get my coffee, I would go in, I would sit down, and then I would enter my numbers in. I would check the bank account balances, because we were able to do that by phone. And I would do those things, make sure everything was in order, and then I was set to do the rest of the day. And this allowed me to manage a very complicated business model, I thought. And then what I realized was that whenever I started the farm, that this was actually a much more complicated business model than having all of those things that I was managing and all those people. Okay, next, Ben. So by doing that, by sorting your numbers on a daily basis, you develop this relationship with your numbers. And developing a relationship with your numbers means that you can make better decisions and get better results in your business. So you're able to see the things that are commonly coming through. You're able to filter and make decisions about money, because the profitability, the margin on farm businesses is really tight. There's a lot of downward pressure in prices, and we don't really have a lot of grace with our money. So it's like, if we don't manage it well, it's coming out of our own personal pocket, and it's going to impact our family, and it's going to impact the ability for us to be able to do more things with our business and invest into our business. So having this relationship with the numbers, and I saw that somebody was new that came in that doesn't have a farm, even better. Get started with this stuff before you even have your business, and then you don't have to do the catch up and the cleanup and cleaning up a mess. So the earlier that you can get these habits set, the better it is. Okay, next, Ben. Oh, this is a big one. Okay, so when you're sorting your numbers daily, I have actually, through debit cards on our own bank accounts, I've caught fraud before the bank caught it and called them about it, just because I'm sorting my transactions. I do this every single day. I sort my bank transactions in QuickBooks every single morning. Takes me just a couple minutes. I've caught fraudulent transactions. I have a client that is actually right now dealing with the fact that it's a new client, that they weren't minding their numbers. They had an employee that was doing the bookkeeping for them, had access to all the money, and they just found out that she was making quite a few personal purchases, not a minimal amount, but many personal purchases on their business credit card over years. The waste, you'll see, like, whenever you're sorting these transactions and you see that there's, some sort of let me put it this way. Okay, so working for Intuit in the bookkeeping department, there's a lot of people that sign up for the bookkeeping, and they're paying for bookkeeping service, and then they don't get the paperwork to us that we need. So they end up paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars a month for a service that they're not using. And if you're minding your numbers and if you're categorizing your transactions, you're able to see these things as they're coming through and question them before you spend thousands and thousands of dollars on that. And then the bank errors, this one, unbelievable. I have another client, a legacy client, that I still do the books for. And he doesn't do a lot of transactions, so I usually do his books every 3 months, and he gives me a manually written check register, and his check register is going to be off a little bit here and there, but this year we had an error or an issue where it was $10,000 off. And we found what I discovered going through his thing and my thing was, I'm like, hey, you said that you deposited $10,000 on X date, but the bank never put that through. And he's like, what? So he goes back, he pulls his receipt out. On his receipt from the bank, because he physically took it into the bank to deposit it, it had his account on it, but they deposited it into somebody else's account. Yes, $10,000. So if you are not minding your money, and if you are not staying on top of this stuff, it's really easy. It's unbelievable how much money you can make just by minding your money. So, okay, that's enough on that. Okay, next Ben. So, back to the 5 minutes a day. Okay, so whenever you start doing like, daily routines and systems. So it's like going out and doing your chores or growing your crops. You have like systems that you go out and you do things in an order, and it's much more efficient to do it in that order. And it's less stressful. You go out there, you can listen to a podcast, you can do other things while you're doing it because it's a routine. It's the same thing with your books, that if you do it every single day, you're going to spend less energy on this. And we have like a limited amount of decisions that we can make in a day. And we want to reserve our brain space to work on complex problem solving and creative tasks, things like marketing, solving problems that are going to have like a lasting impact. We don't want to do like routine, use that brain capacity on routine tasks like bookkeeping. So if we can just, go in there and when you use software like QuickBooks, you can do this 5 minute a day routine. You can do it with paper. You can do it with, journal columns. But if you use software with it, like QuickBooks is what I use, that if you use the software with it, QuickBooks allows you to set up rules that can remind you. I do not recommend that you have the rules automatically put the transactions in, because that takes away some of that filter for you to actually see the money going through. But to set up rules that can remind you of what category it's supposed to go into, and there's an area where you're also able to see what the category was that was used before. So there's like little helpful things to, make it a little bit easier for you to do that. But you also get more confidence whenever you do it, on a daily basis, just what to do, and you go in and do it. And I've seen this with my clients over and over that I've, worked to transition the books over to them, is that if they're staying on top of this, it's like the confidence and the empowerment that comes from being attuned to where your money is, and being able to put these numbers into place and to push a button and to be able to get a report, even though there may be like things that need tweaked on it, that to be able to do that is just so empowering. And it's just, I see just incredible growth in my clients just by this little simple thing. Plus you get, if you're like me, I do really well with checking boxes. It's like I almost like jump up and celebrate kind of person. It's like I really get a lot of positive joy out of checking off a box, or drawing a line through something that says that I finished that task for the day. So it gives you just a quick and easy win. Okay, so one of the first questions that a lot of people say is, I'm so busy, I don't have 5 minutes. Well, most of us can find 5 minutes somewhere, whether it's, scrolling through Instagram and, watching reels, or, for me, I have a tendency, if I get into social media, clicking like on cute cat pictures, Facebook scroll, looking at the news. Probably one of the biggest things is looking really busy and getting nothing done. Another one is having all these notifications pop up on your phone. I ended up turning all my notifications off because I found that I was getting like real reactive to those numbers being there, and I felt like I needed to attend to it and to take care of it. And I ended up turning off all of my notifications, and there's only certain times I allow myself to go into social media. Only certain times I'm allowed to look at the news. Only certain times I'm allowed to check my email. And it allows me to structure and get a lot more work done. So finding 5 minutes is really pretty easy. And if you want to see how long 5 minutes is, I did a thing when I spoke on this out at OFA, and during the lunch break, there was a thing, and my whole talk was how long 5 minutes was. I ran out of things to talk about, and we started laughing about how 5 minutes was so long that even I had trouble finding things to talk about in 5 minutes, about how long 5 minutes was. So 5 minutes is really a really long time. And if you're taking care of this, and you're minding your books, and getting into the system, it's going to take a little bit longer in the beginning until you get used to it. But once you get the system set up and you start, whether it's writing those receipts into your ledger book, or pulling them off of the bank feed into your software, once you get into that routine of doing it, it really goes pretty fast. It takes about 30 days to get a habit set, but after you get past that time period and figuring out when it works best for you, staying consistent with it really helps you to get it done. Okay, so what are you going to do? What bookkeeping tasks are you going to do in the 5 minutes? So there's certain things that a bookkeeper will do that are considered bookkeeping tasks. Doing this basic transaction work is basically the foundation. It's the basic stuff that needs to be done. Things that you could outsource to a bookkeeper that aren't as it doesn't matter as much to your money and to your money mindset. You can put the reconciliations, you can hand those off to somebody else. But in the software, that's like reconciling and making sure everything that you put into your books actually reconciles with the bank statement. But once you get this system done, and especially if you're using a system like QuickBooks, it goes pretty quick. There's some things that we'll talk about later that can complicate all of this and make it really hard. But if you're just taking money in and spending money out, the basic stuff, you can do this all in 5 minutes. You can sort the transactions, you can check your bank balances, you can file your receipts, you can receive payments, prepare bank deposits, and make sure that the cash, count your cash in your hand and making sure that it matches the number in the books so that there's not an over or a short. That you can do that all, easily within 5 minutes, even in a very complicated business that has, multiple different aspects to it, like our tractor business. This was less than 5 minutes for me to do, even by hand back then. Okay, so again, it comes back to making that a habit and doing it at the same time every day. For developing habits, stacking that into your morning routine can help make it stick. Like have a routine that you get your coffee and then you sit down, you do this, or, after the kids, are off to school, you do this, but do it at the same time every day. The more random you are with it, the less systematic it is, and the more you're going to have to think about it. And like I said, it can take that 30 days to get that habit into place. Okay, so that's the big question. Are you ready to take action today? Are you ready to do this? All right, now we got questions. So I want to know how many of you are planning. Can anybody raise hands? Is anybody, ready to take action or already doing this? Yay! Awesome, good for you. So do we have any questions about this and about the system? We're going to get into the things that make it easier and harder to do your books next, but is there anybody have any questions at this point, Ben? Okay, you were asking about I see there's a question about a QuickBooks that's not web-based. I'm not aware of any. The web-based is what I suggest. I did the desktop version for years, and you can't pay me enough money to work on somebody's books that are in the manual version. So yeah, I get what you're saying about the unreliable internet. I do see that. There's probably some programs out there. And I have the same issues being on a rural internet, and I've just struggled to find the right solution that I'm able to do that. So yeah, I know that you can do it by hand. If nothing else, you can get a journal book. I mean, you can make the columns in there. You can write it out by hand. There's spreadsheets. You can do some things with spreadsheets. There's some people out there that have like some pretty incredible spreadsheets. All right, so if you haven't been on top of your bookkeeping, the later in the year that you get into it, the harder it is. Generally, that's going to be something where you're probably going to need somebody to clean your books up. And it's going to be definitely a much more complicated thing. If you're already set up in QuickBooks and you have a mess, that's a different thing than if you are new to QuickBooks. If you're new to QuickBooks and setting it up, there's some ways that you can group the transactions, sort and group the transactions. So how it works is you have QuickBooks, and you connect your bank accounts and your credit card accounts, business bank accounts, business credit card accounts to QuickBooks. And all the transactions that come from the bank come into your books, and they're all listed out. And if you have a new setup, you're able to sort those transactions by who things were paid to. So, and then you can enter those all into your books fairly quickly. But yeah, it is definitely more complicated. But even at that, if you can just get started with the stuff today and not worry about the stuff that happened yesterday until you get that 30 days under your belt, that would be the way that I would go with that. And there's quite a few different resources out there that to be able to help you with getting set up with QuickBooks. And I mean, just the help is very helpful on that. Okay, all right, so let's get into the next phase, and then we can see where we're at on the end. Okay, so here's the big question for every business. And this isn't just farm business. Ours is just more complicated than other businesses. So we just need to own that right here and right now, that farm businesses are very, very complicated business models and very difficult to manage profitability, and that there's reasons why monoculture occurred. I'm not saying that monoculture is the right way to go, but there's reasons why that happened, and we need to take lessons from that and as we filter through what we're doing. So the question is are your decisions or lack of decisions, which means other people are making decisions for you, derailing your business? So are you being intentional about your business, or are you letting other people take control? And it's like, if you started the business for freedom, how are you getting freedom if somebody else is making all these decisions and derailing your life? So back to intentional decisions are the key to holistically growing a business while having the freedom to do what matters most. We need to be intentional. We need to step up to the plate and manage our numbers, make data-driven decisions, and in order to keep the faith of the people who have put money into us by investing in our products, by the grants that we get, the programs we get, to make sure that we maximize that money. It is paramount that we step up and make intentional decisions with our businesses. And this is something that everybody can learn. Everybody can learn this. If you can learn how to plant a garden, if you can learn how to grow a crop, if you can learn how to grow an animal, if you have any interest in how much organic matter is in your soil, you're managing numbers. So it's the same thing, but you're making sure that that financial leg of sustainability has solid footing, because if you don't have profitability, you are not sustainable. So to do that, it means that we really need to be intentional. And like I said, farming businesses, we do not have the grace that other businesses do. It's so much easier in my other business. So especially if you're doing direct retail, the farming, it's a very complicated business model to manage, as I've said like about 50 times so far. We have Mother Nature, we have multiple revenue streams, multiple enterprises, we have perishable products, we have inventory management that we need to do. We've got low price pressure, low margins. I mean, I could go on and on and on. And then we have, grant programs, grants we need to manage, this program that we need to manage, that program that we need to report on. We need to, do all of these things around with trying to have a life. And we got into this for freedom. So the key to this is that we need to simplify the business as much as we can, so that the business can not just survive, but thrive, and that we do not just survive, but we thrive. So, and this is not something that's new. This is something that if you look to any of the major thought leaders, I have several mentors that are, well outside of this space, people like, Tony Robbins, Brendan Burchard, Marie Forleo, Amy Porterfield, Natalie, her name's eluding me right now, but all of these, James Wedmore, all of these people are, Susan Bradley, all of these people that I'm working with, that it all comes down to data-driven decisions and simplifying the business. And it really doesn't matter what business it is. And Mike Michalowicz, his work, everything comes back to simplifying the business as much as you can, so that you can survive and the business can survive and both of you can thrive. I suggest you think of your business like a garden. That just like a garden, you got to plan, you got to plant, you got to nurture the right plant, and you got to weed to get a good harvest. A business is the same way, that you really need to plan and be intentional. You need to plant those seeds of the things that you're going to work on and be intentional about it. You can't just go out there and just, throw the seeds, because nothing's going to grow and it's going to be all over the place and it's going to be a mess. So, and that's oftentimes what we do. We get all these enterprises and these ideas, and we're going to add all this value, and we're going to do all these things. And it's like just going out and taking a packet of seeds and going like this out in your field. And then it's like you don't know where anything is, you can't see anything, you have no clarity, and it really complicates the business. So again, you got to plan or be intentional. You got to plant, which is, you need to make sure that that you're intentionally doing the actions that you plan to do. You need to nurture the things that you decide to plant, and not get distracted by everything else that looks cool and shiny out there. And then most critical is that to simplify, you need to weed your business. You need to make sure that anything that is not moving you towards the things that matter most to you, towards that profitability, if they're not profitable, if it's something that you do not enjoy, that you absolutely hate, that these things you really need to make sure that they go away, that you cultivate the right customers. So it all comes down to just, to doing the same processes that we do on the farm, but applying those principles to a business. Okay, so I do want to clear the air about something before we get any deeper in this. The word scaling gets tossed around a lot. And most often people talk about scaling, that you're just going to make more money, that I'm scaling, I'm doing more things, and I'm growing more crops, and I'm doing more stuff. That's not what scaling means. Scaling means that you're doing it more efficiently and you're doing more with less. That's what scaling is. Scaling is that you're making that differentiation between income expense and expenses, that you're actually keeping more of that money. So all of the things that I'm talking about are really things that are going to set you up to scale your business, making these intentional decisions, pulling the things out that really aren't serving you well and serving your business well, customers that really make you want to cry whenever you go to serve them. And I know that, most everybody that's sold food has had that happen at one point in time or another. You just get so tired of hearing, why is your stuff so expensive? Well, you need to just focus on nurturing, the people and the things that are going to help your business survive, so that you can have integrity for the people that you chose to serve and that have chosen to invest in you. And with nonprofits like PASA, and with the grant money, the USDA, that we can put all this stuff to good use, and in the end we can have a good life, and we can make the impact that we really want to make to conserve the land, the food skills, and do the conservation work that we want. Okay, so back to it again. We're talking about simplifying the business and continually improving or nurturing good processes are the key to scaling and success. So when you hear the word scaling, the first thing that you should think of is weeding and nurturing. That to scale, it's a constant process. Business is not like a once and done thing, and it's an art and a science, and it's something that's continually growing and changing. So a business plan is not something that you put down on paper. It's something that you work through, where you have like a 90-day or a short-term goal that you're working towards, and then you tweak and modify that, just like you do with a crop. If you plant something in the ground and it's not growing the way that you want it to, then you're going to look and say, okay, what pest do I have? Is the soil conditions right? All these things. It's the same thing with business. And what makes it really complicated is that we have so much production that we need to do. And then we also have this business that we need to do. And the business part, if you can produce as much as you want, but if you don't have that business part where that your numbers are good, then it's like your chances of survival are not going to be real great. You really need to be balancing this and working these up. So as you increase your production, you're increasing your business skills and your ability to market, your ability to manage your numbers and your profitability, because you can absolutely grow yourself right into bankruptcy by growing things that are not profitable, and by increasing enterprises and products that are not profitable. That if you focus on things without knowing where your numbers are, then it's really going to hamper you from making those good decisions and being in integrity. Okay, so this is one of my favorite things, Tony Robbins. So it's like, where the focus goes, the energy flows. So if you have like all of these different, let's just look at some of the things that we have. Okay, so for me, I had cattle. So I was doing cow-calf backgrounding, finishing. I was harvesting, selling direct to retail. I had 7 farmers markets. I had heritage poultry that I was doing hatch to harvest, selling breeding stock, shipping chicks, I was also, I had other products in my store. So I was selling other people's products because I had a Shopify store. So I was doing cheese, I was doing beans, tortillas, other people's chicken. I was doing all these different things. And yeah, I had good revenue, but the profitability wasn't there. It was like I couldn't focus on anything. I couldn't focus on anything. My focus was all over the board. So that's whenever I started looking at this, and I'm like, hey, something's got to give. And started looking at different processes, because the things that I had always done was just to do more, and that just didn't work. I had always just, oh, I'll just do this, and it worked. And it didn't do that because the farm business model is so complicated, because each one of those things that I mentioned is essentially in industrial agriculture, a completely different enterprise that somebody focuses on exclusively. So having my focus all over the place was just, it was just not working at all. So that's where it's like, the weeding part is really important, because if we have too many things that we're trying to focus on, and if we're not weeding them out, it gets like really messy, like a garden does, where you got like a bunch of weeds and nothing's growing. And you're not able to see, what the crops are, and nothing does well. It's like, overstocked animals, on an overeaten pasture. It's like it does not work. So we need to make sure that we're being very intentional about where we're focusing, so that we can put the energy that part needs into it. Okay, so let's talk about like some of the things that we can do to simplify the books, get better numbers, but this also simplifies your business and actually will help you succeed. So first off is to make that habit of daily bite-sized sessions, keeping business and personal separate. When you're doing like your books, you want to make sure that you don't want to be spending that 5 minutes sorting your personal transactions. You need a separate business account. I highly suggest that you have a separate account for your income and a separate account for your expenses, so you don't have to do mental math to see whether you're keeping up with your revenue goals or not. But definitely, without a doubt, keeping business and personal separate, that 5 minutes should not be used to do your personal books. Excuse me. You want to limit your enterprises so that the books are easier. And this is making very intentional decisions about your capacity to take on another enterprise, because I hear, oh, you should add value and stack this enterprise and do all these extra things. And the thought isn't there on how it complicates your ability to manage your money in your books, and to manage your profitability for, and track your numbers for that enterprise and for that crop. And I would also add under that when you're doing like market gardening, or a diversified veggie farm where you have like 30 different crops, each one of those crops is essentially a separate revenue center. And it's something that you should be tracking profitability at least intermittently on each crop. You should be tracking time and processes on each crop. And if you're not doing that, you could be growing a lot of things that really are not making you any money, and essentially working harder, taking things away from your family, and really not helping yourself get ahead. Harnessing tech so it's easy to sort and report. The tech makes it real easy. Limiting payment types. This is a huge one, because everybody wants to take every payment. We want to take, in around me, we have Just Harvest chips for, EBT. We want to take, credit cards. We want to take checks. We want to take cash. We want to, do barter. We want to do Shopify sales. We want to do Stripe sales. We want to do Square sales. We want to do all these different things. Every single one of them complicates your bookkeeping. So when you look at every time somebody says that they want to give you something that's out of your preferred method of payment, that's going to just think that's going to take at least a minute or two out of your life every day. So, that's what the ramifications are, because every time we say yes, we got to say no to something else. So, the same thing with tracking sales on multiple platforms, people that are complicating their books by doing, online sales in this platform, and they're doing CSA sales in that platform, and they're doing market sales on this platform. Each one of those is a place where you need to track your numbers. You need to put them into your books. You need to manage those, the fees, and report the fees in that. Every single one of them complicates your books. And when at QuickBooks, whenever we're monitoring, the people who are coming in to have their books cleaned up, I'm on the front end of that. So I see and evaluate the books coming in and what things we need to gather up. Just gathering these documents up takes time, and it's going to take time out of your life. So before you say yes to that platform, that next platform, just think about what you want to give up in order to monitor that. Because if you don't monitor that, and if you don't track your numbers, your failure rate is going to be much higher. And it's an intentional decision that you need to make and say, do I really want to complicate my life that much? And then paying expenses with credit or debit cards versus like cash or check. When you do cash and check, those with a software system like QuickBooks, it doesn't import automatically, and it doesn't have the payee listed. So you actually have to take extra time to type those transactions in. So that definitely complicates your books. So think twice about that as well. I mean, if it's the way you do things, you'll just have to come up with a way to do it and realize that's you're willing to give up the time in order to pay by cash or check. A lot of this is just a flip of the other ones, except for I'm going to add one at the end down there. So instead of there being 7, there's 8 ways. So, if you want to make it harder, you're going to wait and forget what the numbers were there for. You're going to mix your business and your personal. You're going to add value in stack enterprises. Every single one of these complicates your bookkeeping and your business management. You're going to do the books by hand, so everything's a big job. You're going to accept any payment method that other people want, and you're going to allow them to make the decisions for you instead of you making the decisions about how you want your business and your life to be, and that they have to either do it or find somebody else. You're going to, if you track sales in multiple platforms, if you pay with handwritten cash or checks or cash, all of those things complicate it. The other one I'm going to add on the end is selling meat by the pound. Since I, sell grass-fed beef, that complicating the online platforms are meant to sell by the piece, unless you're only selling at market. If you're not selling online and you're only selling at market, you can do by the pound, but it's very complicated to track your inventory. So having managed hundreds of thousands of dollars of inventory and knowing that the inventory is what's going to make or break your business, and that's the same thing even for crop inventory. It's like making sure you sell it all and it doesn't go to waste. That managing that inventory is going to be key to your success. That trying to track how many pounds you have and how many pieces you have that are within certain weight sizes is way too complicated for a business of our size, unless you are charging extreme boutique prices for your time. The other thing is that there's platforms out there that you can sell it by the piece and then adjust it to the weight. And I say to that, that in the time that I have my orders packed and I'm over there working on my marketing to, to wow and inspire my customers, that half hour that that person is spending on making those adjustments and changing the amounts that their customers are going to pay for something that their customers really, most of them don't care about, taking the time to do that. I'm doing marketing in a time that they're sending money back to their customer. So I suggested that that's something that you really think about. All right, so Marie Forleo, she's one of my favorites out there, and she's got like so many things. She has ADHD, and so a lot of her materials are really focused and focused on focusing. So, but one of her things that I think this is so powerful is you want to simplify to amplify. So it's not doing more and hustling more, but the more that you simplify, you really amplify, and you're able to do more with so much less, and you're able to have a better life, have a better product, serve your customers better, and overall do more and have more impact, the more you simplify. And it's a constant repetitious pattern. It's like do a little, just like weeding, you don't go in there and pull everything out because you'll pull the good crops with the bad. So you need to be intentional about it. Okay, so we're back to the same one, that the work is like really, really, really super important for us to do. So for us to, to make these intentional decisions and to make sure that we're doing the things that are going to move the needle in our businesses and make the impact, that this is something that we really need to step up and start looking outside of the traditional farming industry to what other businesses are doing and how they're using data driven information to move the needle and move things forward, because there's so much that can be done with just data driven stuff on not just our crops and things, but making these intentional decisions with our marketing and using data to be able to do that. But to do that, we've got to be able to measure it. This is so key, that every time you say yes to something, it means you have to say no to something else. So, I mean, it's so important to be intentional with that decision. Is anybody ready to take action? Who's going to go eat? I really want to know, does anybody think of one thing that they can do to simplify their business today or take a little bit of time back in their business today? Any questions? Okay, so I either baffled you or y'all sitting there like a horse licking and chewing. Oh, you're welcome, Lindsay. Does anybody have any questions about this? Because I mean, it was a lot of information, but everybody here, I have faith that every single one of you can go out there and just knock the socks off of business. It's not complicated. It's not something big and scary. Me having a bachelor's degree in accounting didn't set me up to be able to do, business. It all just came, from, experience and learning from others. Okay, I see Lindsay has a question. Go ahead. Awesome. I'm so glad you're all getting some aha moments here.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you so much. Especially the point about picking which thing you're going with, as opposed to are you going with Stripe or Shopify or but I wanted to ask, I had QuickBooks, and then in August, for some reason, it wasn't reconciled, it was registering my bank account twice, and I couldn't figure it out. I called the bank, they couldn't figure it out. I talked to an accountant, and it took her a couple, a week and some change to get it figured out and go back and forth with all of the banks and stuff like that. And I guess I'm wondering how I don't know, to like help like prevent, like, I don't know, what do you do if like something like that's going to require a lot more time like suddenly appears in the like August or a really intense part of the season for you, and like how do you know how
Okay.
much time am I troubleshooting and how much time am I giving to an accountant to troubleshoot?
Okay, well, here's the first thing is that if you're doing it 5 minutes a day, you're going to catch it before it becomes a big problem. So you're going to see that the very first day. So instead of it being a 10-hour problem in a month-long thing to fix, it's going to be something that's going to be a lot quicker. And without looking at your books, it's really hard to answer that question. Because there's so many different things that add to the complexity. One thing I will say is that if you're using QuickBooks Online, that they did open up, there is a do it with me, which is people that are like me, that are pro advisors, that are trained on the software. Not everybody is experienced in business as I am, but they are experienced with the software and they do have support, and it's $50 a month. There's, and that's, you would go into the subscriptions and billing, and that would be an option. You can go through through the help, and there's a lot of help there available as well. So there are places where you're going to need to have somebody that's going to be a support person, and that's something that, especially when you're doing your setup and that, that there's a lot of different people out there that can do that. That's something that you could also bring forward to PASA and say, hey, we really need some support in being able to get our books clean so that we can do this kind of stuff. Is that helpful? I know it doesn't solve your problem, but yeah.
I mean, it's figured out now, but yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Oh yeah, incorporating. As soon as you incorporate, you're creating a whole new entity. So that one it's actually kind of easy, because you're starting a whole new set of books, brandy spanking new. As soon as you get a new employer identification number, it's a new set of books. QuickBooks Desktop, you can't pay me enough money to work on that anymore. You just cannot. I went over to the light side, I should say, and I had one client. It was a big Shopify client that I was, using a remote desktop to get into their books. They were in Montana, and it was just like, you can't pay me enough money to do that. So who's going to do something? Okay, so it looks like the 5 minutes a day and breaking it down. Yeah. And once you get, I would start with one thing. And one thing, even if that means that the one thing means you're not going to do one thing. If that one thing means you're not going to spend 5 minutes scrolling through social media and you're going to take that 5 minutes to yourself, I suggest you take 5 minutes and do that. Starting with the books, that would be one thing. And I think that when you start with a small bite-sized kind of task, you can expand that as you feel more comfortable with it. But I think that whenever you start with, like small things like this, that and getting into a routine, it's the same thing with marketing too, that it's the routines and the rhythms that you want to get started going. So anything else? Anybody else have anything? Sounds like it was pretty well understood. Oh, you're welcome. So what do you say, Ben? I saw you smiling in there.
Oh yeah, a lot of great little things that I took some notes for myself, actually. I like the 30-day habit building. So take up to 30 days to build that habit. That's important to remember, to keep grinding at it, just in case
Right.
get the habit.
Right. Well, you see, that's where like the certified high performance coaching, that's actually all personal development. And that's about you, working to be the best you that you can be. And the same principles apply to business, but it still comes down to the same thing, is that it's all habits. It's, having habits, and high performance habits, and, business habits. So it's business habits, it's routines, it's processes. It's just like growing. You have routines and processes and systems, but we just don't pay as much attention to the business side of things. And it's one of those things is that if you're going to be in business, you really need to, James Wedmore, another one of my mentors, he is really good about saying you have got to fall in love with, he says marketing, I say business. It's the whole thing that you really need to realize that you're doing, that you're empowered and you're able to do these things. And I have the faith that every single person here can do it. It's going to take a little bit to untangle some of the messes and things, and needing resources to be able to do that. Julia Shanks, the Farmer's Office, she's great. There's another one, Alicia from Royal Wise, that works with all kinds of other businesses. Carrot Project, Plaza has like a bunch of different things that happen. So, there's a lot of different resources out there. But this is something that we really need to, at the FSA, farmers.gov. Oh, Ben, we didn't get to the last page, which everybody's going to get, which is a bonus page. Okay, small farm tax guide, rural tax, farmers.gov. All of these are places that you can download, and this is going to come out to you in a PDF, so you'll have these. You don't have to write them down. But the Farmers Tax Guide and farmers.gov, there's so much amazing information in there. And there's, so much stuff that's available that we really need to just, start taking a little bit at a time. And if we can just start with just 5 minutes a day and sorting those transactions, that would be awesome.
Yeah, thank you very much, Shelly, for informative and motivational presentation here. We love it. Thank you for all attendees for coming out and joining us. If you wouldn't mind giving us some feedback in the survey I just dropped in the chat, we'd love to hear what your thoughts were.
Yeah. Well, thank you all so much for being here and patiently listening to me. It's like, come on, we got to do it. Thank you so much.
Yes, thanks for joining us, everybody, and again, thank you, Shelly. Awesome.
Oh, you're welcome, Ben. It was good seeing you again. And thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. Okay, take care. Bye.